Hi everyone, my name is Arvenius, and in today's video I will be showing you how I made One More Night, which is released on Sermon's label Backlit Music. So I think we can start off with the drop. So at the top we have the leads, which sound like this. As you can tell, they're very bright leads with a lot of different layers actually. So let's go through them. This layer, first layer sounds like this. These are the first two. Then let me show you the rest of them. So yeah, as you can tell, they're all pretty much different sounds. So the mixing in the lead bus is just some distortion at the top to bring the leads out more in the mix, so they're just a little louder and just adds a bit more characteristics to the lead. Some EQ to remove the lows around here, because leads really don't need the sub around here. And then just raising the highs here a little bit to brighten the leads, like just increase the presence in the mix, in the drop. Increase the mids a little bit, and then dip a few frequencies. Same here. So yeah. Then we have OTT to glue all the sounds together so they sound like one big powerful lead stack. Another EQ here, this time I added a high cut as well, and just boosted the high mids here, and as well just like dip this frequency here, and just a dynamic EQ to dip the frequencies here whenever the notes are playing, similar to a peak controller, but it's in the EQ instead, and just a dip around 350 Hz, like in the low mid area. Then we have probably my favorite reverb plugin. It's called Ars Acoustic Reverb. The reason it's my favorite, it's because it gives the most realistic reverb sound out of probably all the reverb plugins I've used. So yeah. Then Sausage Fattener, which actually didn't do anything on it. I just put the plugin in and it was fine as it was. Basically, even if you don't do anything, it still like kind of fattens your sound. I didn't want it to be too fat. Then we have an EQ, move the lows after the Sausage Fattener, the low mids, dipping the mids here, as well as the high mids, and just increasing the area between the high mids and highs. Then finally we have an S1 imager stereo, just to widen the leads, and then two different kickstarts, which are used for two different purposes. This one is just like moving this part here, which is probably used, I think I used it for like the top kick. I don't really have a top kick in the drop, but just basically sidechain the attack after every one short bar, and then just a normal free punch sidechain at around 60%. And then I have this bus linked to another bus which has Fruity Balance on it, just for volume automation here in the drop a little bit. Fruity Love Filter for low pass, and I think this is a high pass filter. Endless Smile for reverb automations, an LFO tool. I think I use it for the gate effect, which I didn't end up using in the final version. And then finally Pancake 2, which is just a panning plugin, and I used it to create this cool effect here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, that's basically everything I have on the leads. Now we can move on to the chords, which consist of the piano chords and saw chords. So let me show you how piano chords sound. I've used two layers for it, one being True Pianos, the Diamond preset, and then FL Keys, I believe. Yep. And they're two pretty similar sounds, I'd say, so that's why I panned one to the right and one to the left. So thing about this is it's good to pan your sounds to the one to the right, one to the left if they sound similar, because it will create like a finer balance frequency wise, and so they like sit more right in the mix. The mixing for the piano chords is some just distortion to fatten the chords a bit, OTT to glue the both piano chords together, Fat Filter Saturn just to saturate them a bit, then some EQ, low cut, high cut, and increasing the highs around here and just dipping the low mids and mids. Stir enhancer is just to make the piano chords a little, just like a tad bit more mono. EQ again to remove the lows, dipping the mids, and increasing the mids. I meant low mids, decreasing the low mids and increasing the mids, and then just some normal sidechain. So right here we have the saw chords, which sound like this. As you can hear, you can kind of hear the melody, the main melody. I sometimes do that, not very often, but in this instance I did it. I have 4 different layers, and each of them individually sound like this. And the mixing in the bus for the saw chords is some distortion just to beef up the chords, OTT to glue them together, Fab Filter Pro Q3 just to EQ them out, fine tune the mix of it, low cut, high cut, increasing, decreasing some areas, Soothe to basically just soothen out those harsh highs, Decapitator just a tad bit of distortion, because I thought they were missing something, like a bit of crisp, and then more EQ, low cut, high cut, increasing the highs, decreasing the mids here and the low mids. Pro L2, I think it's basically just a limiter, and sausage fattener again. I didn't do anything on it, I just left it like that. Love filter for low pass automation, and then kickstart for some sidechain. Both chords sound like this. Now we can move on to the bass. So let's go with the mid bass, and the mid bass sounds like this. Okay, so I have used 4 mid bass layers, one of them consolidated as you can see here, and each of them sound like this individually. And the consolidated one sounds like this. And now the mixing, basically we have an EQ here just to remove the highs and lows a bit, and decreasing the low mids because they're a bit too muddy in that area. Wow 2 just to beefen up the mid bass a bit. Sorry if that lagged a bit. Sometimes the plugins do that. Pro Q3 to decrease the lows, and as well as a little bit of the low mids, and just increase them around this area. Then a high cut effector to give them a vox effect, a vocal effect, and this is how it sounds without it, actually. So yeah, basically what this plugin does, it just makes it more unique. It gives them like a nice character. Yeah, and then we have the glue just to compress the sound a bit. Pro Q3, just a low cut, high cut, dipping some areas. Then doing some side EQ. Stuff like this is actually pretty important because you can get rid of frequencies that are too stereo instead of having to use a plugin like Patcher and doing the mid-side EQ, stuff like that. So that's that's one thing I really like about Pro Q3. It has mid and side EQ built into the plugin. Then we have just an EQ low cut, high cut, increasing the low mids here, dipping this frequency, and as well as removing some high mids and mids. L2 to just limit the sound a bit. That's like a limiter, kind of like compressing it, I guess you can say. And then some sidechain. Now we can move on to the sub bass, which sounds like this. For the sub bass, I've used two layers. Both of them are basically the same, but one is a higher octave, one is a lower octave. It's great to do stuff like this, like one sub octave higher, one lower, only if it's necessary. In this case, it was necessary because it was missing some of that fatness in the sub. So you can do this, and if that doesn't work, I would suggest adding a respace in the drop. And the mixing for the sub bass is just Fruity Blood Overdrive to beefen it up. It's almost like our bass. Saturn just to saturate it a bit. Then our bass stereo here. Pretty sure I should have used the mono one. I don't know why I used a stereo, but nonetheless, I just use this to boost the frequencies around 60 hertz. Pro Q2 just to remove all the unnecessary highs and mids and low mids, because in the sub bass you really just need the sub. That's what's called the sub bass. C2 just to compress the sub. Pro Q3 again removing the highs and mids after the compression, and just a dynamic EQ around this area. Same thing here, just increasing the area around here, and then finally a sub bass sidechain from Kickstart. Now we can move on to the final instrument in the drop, which is the guitar bass. Earlier I mentioned something like add a Reese bass, but you can also add a guitar bass. Really, it's kind of like the same as a Reese bass, but in this instance I used a guitar bass, and for that one it's just a one guitar preset from Nexus E-Bass 2, and the mixing for it is just an EQ, removing all the lows, because really this one is more like for the low mids, something like that. OTT to fatten the sound just a bit, the glue to compress it, and then just removing all the highs and the lows again, just decreasing these area because they were a bit too much and making the drop a bit muddy. Decreasing the highs here as well as high mids, and then just some simple sidechain here. And I believe that is it for the instruments in the drop, and altogether they sound like this. Now we can move on to the samples in the drop. So at the top here we have the drop kick, which sounds like this. Then we have rides. Yeah, simple rides. Then here we have rhythmic rides, which just follows the rhythm of the melody. Yeah, I kind of panned them to the left and right. I used 2 different ride samples, so yeah. Then we have the ambience here. Right here we have the mid drop fill, which just consists of 3 simple samples actually. One of them being a snare fill, a tom fill, and as well as this snare transition thing. Then we have this reverse crash that I also use in the break. Then we have this ride loop. Then some downlifters, which sound like this. Then we have a hi-hat loop, as well as a hat loop here, and some toms. As you can hear, I removed the lows in these toms because they were kind of interfering with the sub and the drop, and I also added these to create like more rhythm, which in the final product it did help. Then we have these clap fills throughout the drop. They sound like this. Yeah, they're just repeated. And I'm pretty sure that's it. But here we have just a reverse sub, like a normal sub drop, a clap transition, and a fill. It sounds like this. This is at the end of the drop. As well as this impact here from Feel Young by Severman. And yeah, that's pretty much about it for the drop, so we can move on to the breaks now. Alright, so what we have here is this string arp, the staccato strings, which sounds like this. And the mixing for that is just Fruity Balance for volume automations, Stereo Enhancer to widen the sound, Reverb to make the sound more wet, just simple low cut and high cut, and just reducing the low mids here. Nothing special really. And the preset that I use for this is, I think, the Saturator preset in Session Strings. That's a contact library. And then here we have this piano fill, which sounds like this. And the mixing for that is FabFilter Saturn 2, just to saturate the sound more. Toro Verb to give it a nice little unique reverb. Valhalla Vintage Verb for even more reverb, because I wanted this one to be like a sort of like an ambient sound. OTT, just to compress the sound a bit. Pro Q2, removing the lows by a lot actually, the mids here and increasing the highs, and then finally some stereo shaper to widen the sound. Now we can move on to the actual break stuff, which consists of the ambience, and the ambience altogether sounds like this. Very dreamy. At the top here we also have this reverse vocal every 4 bars, and as well as this reverse synth. Pretty sure you've heard this in many songs before. We have a crash here, reverse crash, 2 down signs here, and then we also have the break piano, which sounds like this. Those are Rhodes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I use 2 different addictive keys presets. The first one being Warm Tines in the Mark 1 section, and then the Roomy section in, the Roomy preset in the Mark 1 section. The mixing for it is volume automation, fruity balance there, then just a low cut here, and just to tame the high end and mids a little, and high mids. And you're probably asking yourself, why do you say tame and not cut? Well, basically what this does, as you can see, it's not really like an ordinary high cut, so that's why I said tame. This type of quote unquote cut just basically tames the frequencies you're trying to reduce. But if you do like this, that's a high cut. And then at the end we have kickstart, which I used for, it's a kickstart automation, sidechain automation, for the part from the part before the build-up and to the build-up. Now we have this reverse sound effect, sweep, as well as this reverse vocal, my signature sweep up, and then a clap fill, as well as a reverse crash, and also this guitar fill that you can hear in the background. I thought that this added a really nice touch in the breaks. And then we can move on to the next part, and we have a piano here, as well as a reverse piano, piano note, and then the piano consists of 2 different layers, one of them being from Addictive Keys, the Grand Noir preset in the Pseudo Grand section, and then I believe Contact Noir scoring felt, yep. And the mixing for the piano is just fruity balance, rotary volume automation, OTT to glue the sounds together, just some saturation, EQ to remove the lows, and as well as the highs. I remove the highs because this is a relatively soft piano, and I want it to be soft. I thought that a hard and harsh piano would not really fit this type of break. And then we have a sidechain automation that I also used in the part before the build-up into the build-up, just like the Rhodes from before. Then we have this guitar. And now for this one, it's just again volume automation, stereo shaper to widen the sound a bit, like more to widen it, but a bit more on the right side, I believe. Reverb for just reverb, and it's also I think one thing that people should keep in mind when adding reverb is always increase the high cut and low cut, because just like in an EQ, when you add a low cut, it basically removes the lows, and what the low cut does in the reverb, it basically does the same, but just to the reverb. It removes the lows in the reverb, and the same goes for the high cut, just removes the highs. Then we have another EQ, low cut, high cut, as well as fine tuning the sound a bit, and then just a little dip for like in the low mids area for the left side. And right here we have a pad. Apologies if sometimes it freezes, it's because I have autosave on. And the pad is volume automation, low cut and high cut, and then just some sidechain. Really nothing special. Sidechain again, just like the piano and Rhodes, but sidechain automation. Now we have this shaker loop. Just add a bit more groove, and then this vocal ambience. I don't know if you can really hear it in the background in the original, but it still adds a bit. Then we have some break snaps right here, just to add more groove again. This orchestral fill, and then a guitar bass. And the mixing for it is just high cut right here and just removing the highs, like high mids, and then just same thing again, sidechain automation. We also have this fill that I also use in the drop from earlier. Right here in this section before the build up, we have a kick with a volume automation that leads to the build up. I thought this was cool. And yeah, here transitions into the build up with everything else. We have this fill here with the reverse crash, and then we have a different string staccato sound. I removed the previous one from this part here. Then I have this long sweep up. And yeah, just before this part, before the build up, I have a clap fill there. And here we have the main melody, which is playing in a string preset. Yeah, I thought that was really nice. Then I also have this uplifter that leads into the build up. Then I have a transition here. Yep, and then we have a choir. Choir long preset from the labs. Then for the mixing for it, volume automation, OTT, and then just some simple EQ, low cut, high cut, removing the highs, and that's it for the choir. And for the strings, I believe I used 2 presets. This one sounds like this. This one like that. The first one's session strings from Contact. I don't want to open it up because it most probably will kill my PC. What's also cool about this, what makes it more organic, is these extended notes. It makes them more unique, like more organic. The mixing for the strings is just fruity balance for volume automation, OTT, just to compress the sound, stereo shaper to widen the sound, EQ to just dip this tiny little frequency, reverb, well, for just reverb, and then Pro Q3 to remove the highs by quite a lot. I wanted these to be quite warm strings, and just remove the lows here and a bit of the high mids. And yeah, that's basically it for the strings. And the last thing in this part is these two fills. Basically just help to create a nice transition into the build-up. Now we can get to the build-up, which sounds like this. At the top here we have build-up leads, which I basically used the most organic lead layers from the leads, and I just put them in the build-up, as well as just one super solid layer just to add a bit more character. We have the break piano back in the build-up as well. Then we have these build-up snares as well as the kick build. And for the pre-drop fills, we have a tom fill and two snare fills, and the fill sounds like this. Yep, and we have a few risers right here. Oh yeah, I missed this one out. It's just a rolling snare. Yep, that's pretty much it for the build-up. And for the second build-up, I use different snares actually, and they sound like this. I also use like a panning automation to just pan these little snares. Yeah, and I also have this kind of like a snare loop thing. Yep, and then and the last four bars of the second build, I have this little ARP. And as you can hear, it was fading out in the last two bars, and that's what I did in both build-ups for every single instrument that I used. Basically, I just have Fruity Balance automation, Fruity Balance on every instrument in the build-up, and I linked it to one automation, basically just does this just to make the drop hit harder. And yeah, that's basically it for the build-ups. Now for the second break, it's not really that much different, to be honest. You just have this part here where we have the drop leads, or rather build-up leads, as well as the staccato string and the piano fill, and the guitar from earlier. And now we introduce some orchestral drums, which sound like this. Yeah, and the mixing for it is just some reverb at the top, not too much, because I didn't want to drown in reverb, otherwise it'll sound too muddy. just some compression right here, saturation, Pro Q3 to remove all the unnecessary lows right here, and then I don't know if I use this. It's just I'm guessing a low cut automation, and then we also have this snare fill before the build up, and also before the part before the second build up, and then we introduce these clap fills. Just stadium claps, sorry. Gives it that big euphoric feeling. Forgot to mention, in this break we have a kick, a clap loop, and a ride loop. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this walkthrough. Apologize about the vocals. I'm pretty sure I deleted them on accident, and I really hope you guys learned something new. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to me and Severman, and as well as keep streaming the song. So yeah, thank you so much, and see you hopefully the next walkthrough on Backlit. See you.